Good morning, students. Welcome to the class again. In the concluding class on literary terms, we are going to discuss the three literary terms, namely elegy, blank verse, and comic relief. In our earlier classes, we have covered all the literary terms except these three. So in this concluding class, let us first begin with the literary term elegy. If you remember, in BA Part 1, we have discussed sonnet, lyric, and ode. In second year, we take up elegy. In Greek and Roman literature, the elegy was any poem composed in a specific elegic meter, which means alternating hexameter and pentameter lines. And in England, until the 17th century and even later, the term was often applied to any poem of solemn meditation. In present critical usage, however, an elegy is a formal and sustained poem of lament for the death of a particular person, such as Tennyson's In Memoriam on the death of Arthur Hallam and W.H. Auden's In Memory of W.B. Yeats. Sometimes the term is more broadly used for meditative poems, such as Gray's Elegy written in a country churchyard, which deal generally with the passing of men and the things they value. The particular poem that I pointed out, Elegy written in a country churchyard, is prescribed in your syllabus. And when you read this poem, you will understand that how this particular elegy is different from the rest of the elegies written, which were very personal. There is another term that we can use is the dirge. The dirge also expresses grief on the occasion of death, but differs from the elegy in that it is short, less formal, and is usually represented as a text to be sung. Examples are Shakespeare's Full Fathom Fire Thy Father Lies and William Collins' A Song from Shakespeare's Cymbeline. An important species of the elegy is the pastoral elegy, which represents both the mourner and the one he mourns, who is usually also a poet as shepherds. The Greek word for shepherd is pastor. This poetic form was originated by the Sicilian Greek poet Theocritus, was continued by the Roman Virgil, was developed in various European countries during the Renaissance, and remained current in English poetry through the 19th century. The most notable English pastoral elegies are Milton's Lycidas, Shelley's Adonis, and Arnold's Thyrsis. The pastoral elegies from the Greeks through the Renaissance developed elaborate conventions which are illustrated here by reference to Lycidas. In addition to the representation of both mourner and subject as shepherds tending their flocks, there are these conventions. Point number 1. The lyric speaker begins by invoking the muses and goes on to make frequent reference to other figures from classical mythology. Second, all nature joins in mourning the shepherd's death. Recent critics who stress the mythic and ritual origins of poetic genres claim that this feature is a survival from primitive laments from the death of Thamus, Adonis, or other vegetational devices who died in the autumn to be reborn in the spring. The third point is the mourner charges with negligence the nymphs or other guardians of the dead shepherd. Fourth, there is a procession of appropriate mourners. Fifth, the poet raises questions about the justice of divine providence and adverts to the corrupt conditions of his own times. Such passages, though sometimes called digressions, are entirely integral to the evolution of the mourner's thought in Lycidas. Last, there is a closing consolation. In Christian elegies, the lyric reversals from grief and despair to joy and assurance occurs when the elegist suddenly realizes that death in this world is the entry to a higher life. On the elegy, we have Mary Lloyd's Elegies, Ancient and Modern, 1903. And T.P. Morrison Jr. and Ed J. Jason edited the Pastoral Elegies and Anthology. These are the important books that one can refer to on elegy. The second literary term that we cover in the class is blank verse. What is blank verse? Blank verse consists of blank verse consists of lines of iambic pentameter which are unrhymed. Hence the term blank. Of all the verse forms, it is the closest to the natural rhythms of English speech, yet the most flexible and adaptive to diverse levels of discourse. As a result, it has been more frequently and variously used than any other type. Soon after, blank verse was introduced by Surrey in his translations from the Aeneid about 1540. It became the standard meter for Elizabethan and later poetic drama. A free form of blank verse is still the medium in such recent plays as those of Maxwell Anderson and T.S. Eliot. Milton used blank verse for his epic poems and James Thomson's for his descriptive and philosophical seasons written between 1726 to 1730. Wordsworth employed this for his autobiographical prelude, Tennyson for the narrative idyllics of the king, Browning for the Ring and the Book and many dramatic monologues, and T.S. Eliot for most of the Wasteland. Many meditative lyrics have been written in blank verse, including Coleridge, Frost at Midnight, Wordsworth's Tinton Abbey, Tennyson's Tears, Idle Tears, and Wallace Stevens' Sunday Morning. The formal divisions in blank verse poems, setting off each sustained unit of meaning, are called verse paragraphs. And the last literary term that we cover in the class is comic relief. Comic relief is the use of humorous characters, speeches, or scenes in a serious or tragic work, especially a dramatic work. Such elements were almost universal in Elizabethan tragedy. Sometimes they occur merely as intrusive episodes of dialogue or horseplay for purposes of alleviating tension and adding variety in the best place. However, they are made integral to the plot in a way that counterpoints and enhances the tragic significance. Examples of such complex use of comic elements are the gravediggers in Hamlet, scene 5th, the scene of the drunken porter after the murder of the king in Macbeth, scene 2, the speeches of Fool in Lear, and the role of Mercutio and Old Nurse in Romeo and Juliet. So students, we have concluded and finished with the literary terms that have been prescribed in your syllabus. As I pointed out yesterday also, for any confusion, any clarity, you can refer to the book prescribed in your syllabus, A Glossary of Literary Terms by M.H. Abrahams. In the next class, we are going to begin with the novel or maybe any other topic that has been left to be covered in the syllabus. Thank you.